everybody. Welcome to Fearless with Mary. I am your host, Mary Tibbetts, and I am so happy you are here with me today. On today's episode, I am sitting down with Rebecca Hamilton, author of Million Dollar Bakery and Wake Up and Smell the Coffee. She is also the host of podcast Scrap the Sweet Talk. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I'm so excited to have you on.
I'm excited to be here. This is awesome. Can't wait for the conversation.
So I just finished your book. I actually finished it, well, your second book. I haven't read your first one yet, I won't lie. But I just, on Friday, I finished Wake Up and Smell the Coffee. It's so good.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No, yeah, no problem. So I was wondering, because it not everybody's read the book, obviously. So can you maybe just give a quick rundown to everybody who's listening and just give them like a quick little short synopsis of what the book's about?
Absolutely. The Coles notes of Wake Up and Smell the Coffee. So it's really about scrapping the societal blueprint and living your life authentically and intentionally. On the front cover, underneath the title, it says to stop following the crowd and start following your heart. And so it's really a guide to more intentional and authentic living and realigning yourself as you grow and develop as a human being, because a lot of us just stay stuck in societal conditioning, in what we're told to do, how we should be. And really, I like to advocate for the opposite of that. Obviously, we have to learn to coexist in society for sure. However, we need to, in order to feel truly happy and fulfilled, we have to live in an intentional and authentic way to our true nature and to who we actually are. And so, learning to separate our conditioning, the beliefs that we're taught growing up, all of these things that we're taught, just questioning them and seeing if they're actually right for you or not. And I think the more that people question beliefs that they've grown up with, the more they will see that that doesn't align with who they are today. So it's really about scrapping everything that we're taught and just questioning, why do I believe this? Is this something that I want to continue doing going forward? And so it talks a lot about detaching from material things, realigning your life, your career, your relationships, in a way that matches who you are today, not who you were when you were 20 years old, but who you are now. And so if we don't ever stop to question these things, then we just keep living the lives that, our mom told us that we should do, or that teacher in high school told us that we should do, instead of being really truly authentic to who we actually are meant to be.
Yeah. No, I resonate with that on so many levels. We were actually talking about this before we started recording, and I was telling you how this is like my fourth career. I'm 45, my fourth career. It's not normal in society that that's what's happening. And we had a really good conversation. You're like, well, but who says that it's not normal, right?
And more so, even though that perception is not quote unquote normal, to me, from my perspective, that's more admirable than somebody who stays stuck in a career for their entire life who's unhappy and unfulfilled. Like, you had the courage to be like, I'm not fulfilled in this career. The first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, and you did something completely different. We were talking about the different types of careers that you've had. And in order to honor the person that you're becoming, you have to know what you don't want as well. Knowing what you want is half the battle. Knowing what you don't want is the other half of the battle. So people really need to be open to that and learn that, you don't need to know what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're 18 years old out of high school. That's the common question people always ask kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm 37 years old. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Do you? Like, I'll probably change my career a million other times, like, and love doing it though, because it's as I grow and as I change as a human being, and growth equals happiness. So that is why I'm so happy and fulfilled, even though I have changed careers and shifted, as you say. I think it's more admirable the people who recognize that and do make the changes and realign their lives than the people who are miserable and stuck in a career that is not fulfilling.
Yeah, I can't honestly, I can't even imagine working in a hospital. Cause I worked in microbiology. Well, and I worked in the hospitals for a very long time. I
Hmm.
can't even imagine that. I don't even think I would like know what to do at this point. It's yeah. And it's so funny because I feel like that's a completely different person than the person I am today.
It
Because I
is, and
went,
it should be
yeah,
because you evolved as a human, and the more that do your self-development journey and you heal your inner child, you heal old wounds, you become a completely different person. And so the people who stay stuck in careers or unfulfilling relationships or friendships that should have, fizzled out long ago, those people are not growing and they're not self-developing, so they're staying stuck. And I don't want to be stuck. You don't want to be stuck. It's not a good feeling to feel like you're stuck and unhappy and feel like you're trapped.
well, I'm just miserable, right? Like just in a
Hmm.
bad, like for an okay, I loved my flower shop. I did. I loved my shop. But it's so funny because the 60 days before I handed the keys over to the new owner, it was the longest 60 days of my life. I'm like, I'm done. Get me out of here. I don't want to be here anymore because I'd already moved on from it. I'm
Yeah,
already like
mentally,
pushing
you
forward
are
and going
already
somewhere.
out of there. And I can totally relate to that with my bakery business because I closed that the end of, well, I guess the end of December 2023. That's
Okay.
when we ended our bakery business, and we did that for a decade. We did that for 10 years of our life. I say ours, my husband and I both did that together. And same thing, once I made that decision, and it's funny because the last 2 years of running that business, I was struggling. I was battling this inner conflict with, you know, sugar and my new health journey. I started a new health journey, so I lost 70 pounds. I stopped eating a lot of sugar and processed foods, and I was still selling it to other people and trying to, pretend that I liked it because I had to market it and I was the face of the business. And I was like, I don't eat this shit at home anymore. So it's kind of hard to do that, and I felt really unauthentic and unaligned. So I had to, it took me 2 years of critical thinking and being like, what do I do? This business is over $1 million. It's very successful. It's financially supporting me and my husband. And it was a really, really hard decision to make. It took me 2 years, and I'm very, self-aware, and I knew inside my intuition was telling me I gotta let go of this business, but I didn't know what to do. And like you said, when you are checked out and you made that decision, when I made that decision, it was a few months where I had to, you know, finish the rest of my orders and make sure it was shut down as efficiently and properly with the least impact on staff and customers as possible. And that teaches you a lot of strength in doing that because it's hard to put the same love and care into the final stages of your business because you're checked out.
Yeah, it is. And even with my staff, who I love, I honestly had the best staff on the face of the planet this year. They were so cute because we didn't get to do anything because I'd sold the shop. So the one girl surprise, I was going to her place for dinner, and they
Mm.
threw me a surprise Christmas party. They came. They
Oh my
had.
God,
We
that's
had.
so
It
sweet.
was. I cried so hard, like I was a
That's
hot
so
mess.
sweet. That's
So,
awesome.
but it was hard because I had to be like, I love you guys, but I can't do this anymore. I need to move on to something else because I have health issues and stuff like that. But it's it's been great. I'm so grateful that that stress has been removed from my life. So I just look at all of these people around us, like around me, even my husband as an example. So he likes where he works. It's not That's not what it is. But you can just see the stress because he has to work for somebody else, and he
Mm-hmm.
has to put up with somebody else's issues kind of thing. I'm not saying everybody needs to quit their jobs and work for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. I'm just saying
Yeah.
if you're miserable where you're working and you don't, he's not miserable, by the way, but I do know people who are miserable where they're working. So it's like, well, why? And then the response is, well, what am I going to do for income? I don't know. What are you going to do? But I know for me, I don't really, it's not that I don't, you obviously need to have money to pay for things. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But
Yeah.
why put yourself through hell trying to do it? I would honestly, I would rather work waitressing. I
Mm-hmm.
love waitressing. I would rather work waitressing at 3 jobs than work at one job that I hate.
100%. Yeah. And then the
Right?
problem too is that a lot of people think that that's like they're stuck in this, like that's the only option. Like that's the only job that pays well, has good benefits, has good vacation time. It's like there's so many jobs in the world that where you could have it all, but because you believe that that's the best that there is, that's the best that you're going to get. So until you change your belief that you can have a fulfilling career that also pays well, that also has good benefits, that also has vacation time, that also has an awesome boss or management team, also has awesome coworkers. Like, until you actually believe that that's possible, you're never going to get that. So you have to have that belief that that exists somewhere and to open your options and be open minded and look at different opportunities that will align better for you, whether that's working for yourself or working for someone else, because we know there's challenges to both sides of the equation.
Yeah.
So it's not really about, don't work for someone else, just be an entrepreneur. It's more so about you can find an amazing, fulfilling career working for someone else if you have similar values as the company and you align and you ask for what you feel like you deserve as well. That's another thing that people have to develop the confidence to do, is to feel like you are valuable and you're worthy of what you deserve and asking for that instead of just being like, oh, this is all I get. It's like, well, did you tell them what you expected and what you wanted? Then if you didn't, the communication is off.
Yeah. So how, okay, then I have a question because you're so good at doing this and you've literally done it in your life. So how would you what would you tell somebody to do to get into that mindset?
Yeah, so the first thing is that it starts with self-awareness. Okay, if you don't know there's a problem, there's no problem, right? You have to become self-aware. You have to ask yourself questions. That's where it really starts. And you just have to be acknowledge that you're not happy and you're not fulfilled where you're at, because a lot of times we feel this internally, but we like to rationalize, we like to override our intuition, we like to out logic our intuition a lot of the times. And that leads us on paths that are not going to be aligned for us. So it really starts with asking yourself what you truly want. First of all, you have to acknowledge that you're unhappy. And when you do that, don't just quit your job the next day. Just acknowledge it, sit with it, continue to work where you're at, and figure out what you're unhappy with. Is it your boss? Is it the type of work that you do? Because if you just quit that job and go try to find something else and you don't know what the root cause is or what you're looking for, chances are you're going to attract the exact same thing at another company. And I see this a lot with people with relationships and different friendship issues that they have. They're like, I always attract the same partner, I always attract the same friends. Well, the common denominator is you. So let's get to the root cause of why you are attracting these different things to happen, and focus on what you want to happen. And then so once you recognize what you're actually looking for, you can start from there and focus on small intentional changes. You don't need to overhaul everything overnight, and start making decisions based on what actually excites you. So use your emotions as a guide. That's what intuition is. When you feel drawn to something, And it should align with your gift, what you're naturally good at. Because when we do something as a career that aligns with what we're naturally good at, for me, it's creativity. So I love photography, writing, art. So I can do lots of different careers with what I'm good at as long as it's aligned. So it's really important that the whole self-development journey and discovering what you love and who you are and what your gift is should be used as a compass toward what your career should be. But it starts with self-awareness, because if you don't recognize that you're unhappy or unfulfilled and you just rationalize like, oh, it has good benefits, it has good this, that's a rationalization. You wouldn't even feel the need to rationalize if you were fully, truly fulfilled where you are.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing. I'm so I am a super good bookkeeper. I know my shit. I am so good at it. Honestly, I've done it for a million years. That being said, just because I'm super good at something, that doesn't mean that that's actually what I want to do for the rest of my life. So,
100%.
yeah, so just it's almost like everybody needs to just open their minds a little bit. Go back to when you were like 7 years old and think about what you wanted to be. I'm not saying
Exactly.
that, I'm not saying you can be a unicorn. That's not what I'm saying on any level. But I'm just go back and think about the careers that you want, or even when you were 15 or 16. Like, there's careers, okay, I wanted to be a singer. I know that that's like what my whole life, from like the time that I was like 4 up until probably 19. I wanted to be a singer. I did all of the school play, I did all of the things, right?
Hmm.
Um, but then life happens, and enough people say, well, that's never going to make you money. That's never going to do that. That's you need to do something. So then you start getting these thoughts in your head and you're like, oh yeah, because that's right. That's what society's telling me. That's what my family, that's what my friends, that's what everybody's
That's what
expecting from me
happens
to.
is
Yeah.
the societal beliefs and conditionings come into play. And that's why, to your point, looking back at your childhood at what you loved to do, what would you do where time just stood still and it's just like you were just engulfed in what you were doing? That's the reason why a lot of people say to look back at what you loved to do as a child, because that was before our societal conditioning. That's before the teacher told you that it was unrealistic to be a singer. That's before somebody told you you're not going to make any money doing that, right? Like, I would have never thought that a bakery business would be able to make over $1 million in sales. And I'm sure you never thought a floral business would do that well either. And it's like, it's once you remove the societal conditioning of what you're told you can and cannot do, you realize you really can do anything and make it
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah, you can. You just need to put time and energy into it. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't have time and energy. Well, yes, you do. Get off of Facebook and get off of Instagram for the 4 hours at night while you're sitting in front of the TV not talking to your spouse. I'm guilty. I am 100% guilty of doing that because he, my husband, so we got rid of cable last month because we have all of the apps. I'm like, we don't need cable. We're wasting money
Yeah.
on for no reason. So we're watching this show, and he's into it more than I am. I'm kind of because I like TV. It's fine, but I have to be really like in it
Me
to
too.
win
I have
it.
to be
It's like,
actually interested in it. Yeah, definitely.
yeah, because if I'm not, I have my phone and
Yeah.
I'm going through my phone. Most of the time I'm working because that's how my brain works. But why? Why? I can get up and work in the hours that I allot during the day for me to actually work. So, in your book, you said put your phone in a different room, practice doing it. So,
Yeah.
all of these
Yeah.
people that say, I don't have the time, yes, you do. You do. And
Everybody has the same amount of time as everybody else, and everybody likes to make up. It's so easy to make excuses to say, oh, I have kids and she doesn't, or I have this demanding job and they don't understand. These are all rationalizations. They're all beliefs that you have because there's lots of people that are in more chaotic or more stressful situations that make it work and figure out how to do it. So when you have these limiting beliefs, you have to be aware that that's all that they are. They're limiting beliefs. They're not true. They're not the truth. You could make time if you wanted to. In fact, people do make time for the things that are important to them. So if you are somebody who is making a lot of time for your social media and scrolling, then that's where your time is going, as opposed to somebody else who's building their business and building their entrepreneurial journey, right? I said in my book that if you have any amount of screen time, you go into your phone and you look at your screen time, that's where your time is going. Like, why are you wasting your time on this little device? And there's a time and a place for it, but it's not 6 hours a day every day. That's not going to benefit anybody in this entire world, not even influencers who make their entire income online. Look at that amount of time that you spend on your screen, which if you go into your settings on your phone right now, it will tell you to your face where your time is going. And I suggest to divide that time in half and use the extra newfound time towards building a better life, self-development, reading a book, anything, literally anything other than scrolling on your phone. Because like you said,
Well,
it
yeah.
trains us to have to look at it. Like if my phone's sitting there, it's a habit now. It's ingrained in me to pick it up and check my Instagram. So that's why I put it in another room, because then I'm not inclined and I have to think as I'm walking to the other room what I'm doing. So that in itself intervenes with the process.
Well, and so you said read a book. I'm like the go for the walk lady. So guess what? You can do both at the exact same
Yeah.
time. You can actually listen to a book and what you can actually gain knowledge while you're exercising. I do it
Yeah.
all the
I love,
time.
and
It's
I do that as well. I
wonderful.
love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you need to go for a walk with nothing, with just like
Mhm.
nature, 100%. But we live by a super busy street. I don't want to hear the fire trucks. I don't want to hear the cars going by. So throw the headphones on. I get an hour of a book every single day when I take the dog for a walk.
And
So,
it feels so good and so productive to combine those two habits into one. That like I love James Clear's book Atomic Habits on habit stacking, and that's a really great example of that. You're going for a walk, getting exercise outside in nature. Mental health is being taken care of by being in nature, learning, reading a book. Like all of these, look at all these things you're doing just by going for a walk as opposed to
yeah.
scrolling on your phone.
Yeah, and uh actually it's really funny because I actually, my ringer is not on my phone anymore. So the
Hmm.
second that I handed the keys over for the shop, because my phone was
Yeah.
my leash, and I
Crazy.
know that you
Yeah,
know that.
a hundred
Yeah,
percent. Yeah.
yeah, it was my leash. And so the second I handed the keys over to for the sale of the shop, my phone went on silent, and the ringer hasn't been turned on since July 31st at 5 p.m. of
That's amazing.
2024. Yeah, I don't,
I
because
love
I'm
it.
like,
Yeah.
I have like my emergency ones. My two boys can get through to me. My husband
Yeah.
can get through to me. Um, I think my sister and my parents can get through to me. They're the only ones that can get
So,
through. Yeah,
so you know what that's called? That is called setting a boundary. And that's what people
yeah,
need to recognize, that boundaries are not just for people. They're for these devices as well. They're for everything in our life. You have to create a boundary. And that's what you did. You turn your ringer off. That's a boundary. If somebody calls and you miss it, call them back. It's really not that hard. You don't need to be on the pulse 24/7. And I know it's hard for entrepreneurs. I was so bad for that before I learned about all of this new way of living in my new book, Wake Up and Smell the Coffee, because I was the opposite of how I am in like now. So that's the differentiating factor.
Okay, I have to ask you. I have a couple questions. I know I sent you question sheets, but I'm so interested and I have you, so I need you to just tell me. And I'm not spoiling the book at all. People still need to read it.
No, no,
But
you can talk about anything. Yeah.
okay, so you house swap.
Yeah.
You need to tell me about this because when I heard that, I was like, oh my God. So it's like the movie The Holiday,
Hmm.
right? Because you
Yeah.
guys have a amazing how, like, it's awesome from what you explained
Yeah.
to me. So, okay, so you do a house swap. So tell us about that. And I want to know the coolest house you've ever stayed at.
Okay, easy.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. So I got into house swapping because I had to learn how to detach from material things. So I have a whole chapter in my book about detachment, how to do that. And for my entire life, up until probably last year, a couple years ago, I was the typical material girl, like love all of the stuff, influencer hauls, everything. Sephora, made so much money off of me, all of these material things. So I was like, and then I found myself in a situation where I was in the hospital and I was really sick and I was like, I thought to myself, I was like, so many people go to the hospital and never get to come home. They never get to walk in their front door again. They leave for the very last time and they don't know that. So this became very aware to me. And so I was like, oh my God, this is so scary because my home is so valuable to me. It's my safe space. We've spent so much time and energy and money renovating it, and it's just where I love to be. I'm an introvert. I like to be at home. I like to write at home. And so it was just a very sacred space to me. And this thought that I didn't actually own my home, I'm just, we're here on this earth for a period of time, and we don't really own anything. All of our material things are an illusion that we own it. And, people, the society and economy want us to believe, quote unquote, believe that we own all of these things to make us feel more permanent than we actually are, but we're not permanent. We could die tomorrow and then we don't own our home anymore. We don't own our Gucci bag anymore. We don't own our belongings, right? So this idea was so foreign to me. I can't even explain. I was literally the opposite of this. So when I started learning about detachment, I was like, okay, this was driving me nuts thinking that eventually when I die, somebody else is going to live in my home and, take over all of my belongings. And so through my journey of detachment, which took several months, this was not something I just had an epiphany of like overnight. This took several months to sit with the idea of it, be self-aware and reflect on it. And I was like, I have to learn that none of my belongings are mine and that someday somebody else is going to own my home and somebody else is going to own my wardrobe and own all my stuff. And so I went down this path of detachment and learning how to do this and all the information. And it was really painful and really hard. But one of the things I thought about doing was, okay, I could sell my house and move somewhere else. But then I was like, then I'm going to have to learn to detach from that home. It's just one of these things where our material things end up owning us. We think we own all the stuff, they end up owning us because we're so attached to the external stuff that we lose ourself and our soul in the process of that's really scary. So anyways, I had to learn detachment. So I decided I'm going to detach by sharing my home with other people. And this, I've stayed at Airbnbs. I love to travel. I've traveled all over. And I would oftentimes stay in other people's homes at Airbnb. So I was like, oh, well, maybe I should open my home to share it with other people so that it doesn't feel like it's necessarily mine and I'm feeling like I'm sharing it with others. So I thought that this would help me get over the fact that I, owned my home. So anyways, I found out about this home sharing website and I started doing it very reluctantly because I was like, first of all, I had all of the same concerns everybody has when they start thinking about doing this because I was like, well, somebody's going to ruin my house. They're going to be having sex in my bed. They're going to be showering in my shower. They're going to be like, you know what I mean? All of these thoughts that most people would have. And I had to get over that. And I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all do all of these things, in other people's houses when we stay at Airbnbs or we sleep in a hotel bed. We're sleeping in a bed that other people have slept in and had sex in and all of these things. So why would that be weird just because it's mine? So I really dug deep into these different beliefs and limiting things. And honestly, it's been one of the most amazing experiences ever. we've been doing the home swapping. So, for those that don't know, home swapping is when you just literally trade homes with people. It's basically the same as Airbnb, except there's no money exchange. Now, they do have a point system. I'm not going to get into that, but it's not monetary. It's just based on points. So, it's a value type system. But essentially you're trading homes with other people around the world. So they come to your home, you stay in their home, and you get to travel and have one of the major expenses for your travel, which is accommodations, completely free. So this, for me, I'm like, I love to travel. So I'm going to get over the fact that somebody else is sleeping in my bed, and I'm going to just try it out and see. And honestly, we've been doing it for like 3 years now. We've traded homes with probably 30 different people at this point, and it's all been a positive experience so far, knock on wood. But how often do we think of the worst case scenarios in life and let that hold us back from trying something because we think of all these bad things that could happen when it's probably a 1% chance of the bad thing happening, and the reality is it probably could be the most amazing thing you do. And so this is a great example of that. And I've really loved home exchanging. And a couple of my favorite places that we've exchanged were, one was in Colorado, which I would love to live there one day. I'm very much a mountain girl. I love the mountains. And
Come on
so
to
this home,
Edmonton. It's a 3 hour
I
drive.
know, I love it there. I was gonna say this home in Colorado, it had an elevator built in. It was this big, like bougie, the cutest place, the beautiful mountain views, and it was breathtaking. Do you know how much money that would have been if I would have paid on Airbnb? Probably $5,000 a night. So
Yeah.
this is the thing with home exchange. You open your home to others, and it's like nobody cares if you have the fanciest home. There's lots of condos and things on there, and it doesn't matter. You're there for the experience. But I will say there are some very beautiful bougie homes on there that I wouldn't pay $5,000 a night to stay there, but I would trade my home with somebody else to do that. So that's one. The other one that I loved was actually near Banff in Alberta, and that was my first time getting to experience Banff National Park, and it was breathtaking. Oh my gosh, it was just architecturally beautiful. Like I said, I'm a mountain girl. I need to live by the mountains at some point in my life. So, anyways, that's my experience with home exchanging.
Were you guys in Canmore or were you in Banff?
So we stayed at a place, it was called Bighorn 8 area. So it was about 45 minutes, I think, from Canmore, maybe half an
Yeah.
hour from Canmore. Yeah. So
Yeah.
beautiful,
So
though. Oh my.
I'm sure, do you know? So I'm in Edmonton. We talked about this.
Hmm.
So I'm in
Hmm.
Edmonton. It's a 4 hour drive for us, 4.5 hour drive for us to get to Banff. So I was I was in Banff in December because I was helping set up Banff Springs Hotel, which is the castle, the big castle in
Yeah,
Banff.
it's so
So yeah,
beautiful. My
so
God.
it's beautiful. It's a Fairmont. So,
Yeah.
but I totally get it. I know that some people are ocean people. Don't get me wrong. I love the ocean. We were going to Dominican in like a week and a
Nice.
half. So, because
Yeah.
my husband turned old this like last week. Not really. He's only 50. But
Nice.
my place is the mountains. My
Me
goal in
too.
life is to have a place in Canmore. I love
Oh,
Canmore. It
it's
is my
so beautiful.
favorite. And
Yeah.
honestly,
So
I
where
would
the
even like move
Canmore,
to
Canmore
Calgary.
is where they have the Three Sisters Mountains. Is that where that
Yeah,
is?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Gorgeous.
I
Gorgeous.
call them my girls. I'll
Yeah.
say to Matt, Matt's my husband. I'll say, I feel like we need to go see the girls, and he's
Yeah.
like, okay, all right, because
I
I'm a
know. It's
hiker.
me
Yeah,
too. I
I
love
love
it.
it.
Yeah.
It's so
That's
okay. So the
awesome.
next time you end up coming out here, just let me know.
Yeah.
I'll give you all the good hiking trails because I know I've
Awesome.
done all of them.
Yeah, it's stunning.
It's so good. Okay, my next question. You talk about it a lot in your book, and when you first brought it up, I was like, what the hell is she talking about? I did look into it though, but I want you, if you don't mind, could you please explain to everybody what Wu Wei is?
Yes. So I just learned about this fairly recently too, but It really changed my perspective on our whole hustle culture grind mentality because as a previous entrepreneur, business owner, we get so caught up in the grind and the hustle, and that's ingrained in us, and that's how we learn to live our lives, and it's so detrimental to our mental health, our physical health, our spirit. We are not meant to grind and hustle 24/7. We are not made for that. So I stumbled upon this concept and I really dove into the YouTube videos. Anyone listening, look for podcasts, YouTube videos, books on this topic, and your mind will be blown. And don't be taken back if it takes a while for it to sink in. It took a while for me to watch these videos because you have to be patient with yourself and have grace with yourself because we've been so conditioned to believe the opposite of this, right? So, Wu Wei, in simple terms, is a concept from Taoism, which is spelt Taoism with a T, but it's pronounced Taoism. And that means effortless action or going with the flow. So it's about aligning with the natural rhythms of life instead of forcing things. So in our culture and society, we like to try to control things as opposed to going with the flow and letting things happen naturally. So this is going to feel very different, very challenging if you're first learning about it because we're taught to control our destiny, to grind and hustle, and it should feel hard, right? So Taoism, Wu Wei is the opposite of that. And so a lot of people too, when they're first learning about it, they can confuse that for not doing anything and not taking action. But I like to think of it as a river flowing. So if you think of a river, it flows, it goes around rocks, it goes around the crevices, and it just flows effortlessly, as opposed to if you're trying to swim against the river, you're trying to swim upstream. Like that's going to feel hard. And that's what we do in our society. We hustle, we grind, and that's the opposite of Wu Wei. So it doesn't mean doing nothing or sitting back or being lazy and allowing things to come to you. It's actually about taking action that feels natural and unforced. So it should feel in harmony, it should feel easy. Just think of the word go with the flow. And it's the difference between forcing outcomes and letting things unfold and letting opportunities come to you. But you can't do that when you're constantly trying to control things. And you'll notice too in your life when you are in the hustle and grind mentality, you face a lot of resistance in your life and things start feeling unaligned and they start feeling, it starts feeling constricted and not good. So being aware of that when that resistance shows up. And I really encourage everyone listening to research Wu Wei, and it's spelled Wuwei. That's how it's spelled. And just watch some YouTube videos. It will blow your mind and hopefully change your life.
Yeah, I want to. I've looked into it a little bit. I need to look into it a little bit more. I feel like um, I've changed my whole way of everything since last April, right? Like since I got sick and stuff. Well, I didn't. I shouldn't even say I got sick. It's so crazy. I'm gonna digress for 30 seconds here because
Mhm.
technically, I have an autoimmune disease. Technically, but I don't feel like I have MS because I've taken all of the steps to make it so I don't feel. Some days I feel like I have MS. Other days I'm like, no, I don't. So yeah, I want to look into it, but I've already changed so much stuff. I just need to take it slow on the rest of all of it before my head explodes and I'm not sure which way I'm going. But okay, I have another question for you. I said two, but I actually have three. So,
Mhm.
so you had the bakery, super successful, right? Like super successful. You have your podcast, super successful. You're an author. You do all of the good things. But I feel like now, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like now you measure success very differently than you did before. So, what would be your new definition of success?
So, great question. And I think a lot of people can relate to success. You know, in our society, success is defined as this materialistic type of thing where you're striving, you're achieving. It's a lot of times people attribute success to financial and monetary gain, which I write about in my book in the chapter of the science of happiness. Financial success is just part of the equation. It is part of the equation, but it's just only a part of it, right? It's not the whole of what success is. And for me, success is doing my work and loving what I'm doing. It's having a relationship that I'm actually happy to have. It's having friends that surround me that I actually want to spend time with and hang out with. It's success is all of these things, and that's my definition of it. And it's how I feel aligned in my life. And if I start to feel aligned in any of the key areas of like career, relationships, friendships, anything, I I step back and I question why I'm feeling that unalignment, and then I redirect where I need to redirect. So, 10 years ago, my idea of success would have been growing $1 million company. It would have been all, living in a big house, all of these financial, monetary, materialistic things. And since I've learned that true success is how you feel, how you're able to show up authentically as yourself, feel fulfilled, love what you do for a career, because we spend the most time in our lives working towards our career, which we're made to work, we're meant to work as humans, but it shouldn't feel hard, it shouldn't feel devastating when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, gotta go to work. Like, you should feel fulfilled and happy, and if you don't, ask yourself why, and trust that there's something better. If you take a step in that direction, the universe will open opportunities to you. And so my definition of success is really more complex now, because it includes having successful friendships, having a successful relationship, having a successful career, and it's not monetary. The monetary is only a small part of it, and I think that that's what's missing in our society now these days.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Um, I don't know if you've ever seen it. I don't know. It's a movie. I don't even know the name of it. I can't remember, but it's the one with all of the little bees. It's a cartoon. I don't know. It's a cartoon and it has all these little bees, but they're worker bees. And so it's so crazy because even like Hollywood and
Hmm.
even the cartoons and the things that they program our kids for. So there's all of these little worker bees, and the one bee has like the hard hat and he comes home with his lunch kit and he's so tired. They're literally teaching kids when they're little that this is what's going to happen when they get older. It's wild.
It's so sad, but that is the way our society is set up and conditioned to believe, right? That's the way the school system, the education system is set up. And the reason why it's set up that way, and we have the industries that we do, and we have factory jobs and different things that are not necessarily fulfilling, but we feel drawn to, or we feel expected to go to these careers that are not going to fulfill our soul, is because these jobs help our economy thrive. They are, the companies make lots of money. If we have lots of people employed here, then it's just how our society is conditioned to believe. But I just beg people to step outside of that box that we're putting ourselves in and putting the kids in, and think, is this going to bring me happiness and fulfillment? And knowing too that what brings you happiness and fulfillment at the age of 20 is going to be different at the age of 30, is going to be different at the age of 35. The more that you self-develop and grow, you should be changing your life like you have been doing, changing your career 4 times, and realigning yourself and reinventing yourself over and over again. That's what life should be about, not just going to school, going to college, and doing this career that you think that you have to do, that feels hard and it doesn't fulfill you and it makes you miserable. There are other options out there. That's what I would like people to know.
And the thing is, so I look at life, and I don't even know who said it. Somebody said it. Somebody, but each part of your life is a different season, right? Like it depends what
Hmm.
season you're in your life. So,
Yeah.
20-year-old Mary, I got pregnant when I was 20.
Hmm.
So 20-year-old Mary, 21 got pregnant, 21-year-old Mary had a baby. 21-year-old Mary put herself through college up up until 25-year-old, 26-year-old Mary, 25-year-old Mary was a single mom, right? Like,
Hmm.
so that's a very different part of my life than my life now. Like, my kids are grown. My oldest is going to be 24 this year. The youngest is going to be 19 this year. So it's just, yeah, it's just so crazy when you look at it that way. When you look at it like every part of your life is a different season. I don't even know that girl anymore. I like,
Exactly. That's
I
awesome.
don't,
That's how you know that
yeah.
you've grown and evolved, and that is the true key to happiness and fulfillment that people don't recognize, and they just end up so unhappy and they feel so stuck because they just keep doing what they've always done and they don't step back and question. Like you said, if if you're at a period in your life where you just need to, make money to survive and you're in that survival period, then yeah, take whatever job that you can get at that time. But don't stay stuck there and think that that's your only option for the rest of your life.
Exactly. And I have to say one of my biggest pet peeves on the face of the planet, and I don't know, I'm not even going to be careful in what I say because I don't even care at this point. One of my
Yeah.
biggest pet peeves on the face of the planet is people who've known me my whole life, right? So, friends,
Hmm.
family, whichever. And they have it in their head that I am the dumb 20-year-old that got knocked up. Like that's how
Hmm.
they see it in their head. Or the drunk girl at the party when they were 16 throwing up because I had issues going on that I didn't even know were issues. That now, as an adult, I've worked through, and I'm like, oh, that explains why I was so fucked up when I was younger. Right? Like, it's just,
Hmm.
so my biggest pet peeve is now I'm 45, but these people still act and treat me how I was back then. They expect the same responses from me. They expect the same actions from me. And it's like, I don't even know who that human is anymore. How can you guys even, when you look at me, how can you even think that I am that same person? Because I've grown so much in the last 30 years, 20 years, 25 years, whatever it is. How can you still treat somebody like that? So then that's when the society norms come back, and that's when it starts to snowball a little bit. So you need to just remove
Yeah.
yourself from it. That's where the
Yeah, and
boundaries come in,
do you
right?
know what it really is with when it really comes down to it in those situations is because a lot of times you'll notice that those people that still treat you the same way are still the same person that they were. And typically they haven't evolved to where you're at. So it makes them feel a certain way when they have people in their lives that they thought that they knew, and now you're a new version of yourself, and they still think that you're in their mind because they're still the same version of themselves. They want to cling to that version of you, and that can be really hard when it comes to relationships, but those are the people you really need to have strong boundaries with, and also connect with other people who do get to know the real new version, the new and improved version of yourself, and recognize that outgrowing people, places, and things is actually a true sign of realigning yourself. And it's a true sign of happiness and self realization. And a lot of times people think that it's a negative thing to outgrow friendships, relationships, careers, but it's actually the most inspiring, beneficial thing you could ever do is outgrow old versions of yourself that no longer align with who you are now.
Right? So wouldn't it be nice to be able to sit somewhere 5 years? You're sitting there 5 years. I'm even doing it right now. So I'm sitting here thinking to 5 years ago. So in the floor, and I don't know if you would know it in the baking world, but in the floral world, Valentine's Day is in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, ours we were really ironically busy that time, yeah.
Yeah, so Valentine's Day is in 2 weeks. And it would have started for me, I'd say, 3 days ago. The stress is
Yeah.
starting to come. Oh my God, the panic. Oh my God, the sick feeling, the not sleeping, the nausea. Oh my goodness, I dropped $10,000 on wholesale flowers. I hope that we sell them just to cover
Yeah.
the bills for it. So this is Mary 5 years ago, right? Nobody actually
Hmm.
seen this Mary aside from my family, and it was horrible because
Hmm.
I missed so much. Don't get me wrong, I loved having the shop, but I missed so much. I missed 5 years. I missed 6 years. So Wesley's my youngest, so he is 18 now. So I missed from age of 12. No, I'd say age of 11 until 17. No, age of 12 till 18. I literally missed every holiday, and his
Hmm.
birthday's May 7th. Well, that's Mother's Day weekend normally. I missed almost every birthday, every holiday because I was working. Who does that benefit? It benefits everybody coming into the shop and buying stuff, and it benefits my wholesalers, and it benefits my bank account, and it benefits that. It did not benefit anybody in this house. It did
Hmm.
not benefit me. It did not benefit my health. It did not benefit my relationships with my friends on any level. So now I sit here and I look at Mary 5 years ago. I don't know her. And I don't want
Hmm.
to know her ever again.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
awesome.
hope for everybody going forward that they can actually do that. 5 years from today, listening to this episode, they can actually sit there and go, wow, I don't know that version of me anymore. And I've grown so much from that point in time. I am really proud of myself. And not a lot of people can say or do that.
No, and I love that you said that. And I love that you put it into the perspective of a 5-year term. And, one thing I heard in a book that I was listening to recently, they said that if you the faster that you are changing as a person, the more that you develop, like if you grow a lot in 1 year, let's say, you can expect to change a lot of your friendships, a lot of your outside of external things are going to change and evolve with you. So the more that you grow, the faster that you grow and evolve, you can expect that you're going to have to let a lot of that old stuff go as well. And it's hard for us as humans to separate that and let go of things that we loved at a certain point in our life and to move on in a new direction. But you have to really just trust the process and trust that new friendships, new opportunities, new business ventures are going to come to you that are more aligned with the version you are today. Because there's nothing worse than you being a completely different person, but you're still around the same circumstances and same people that you were 5 years ago. That's going to feel really unaligned as well. So I love that you put that in the perspective of people making it a goal to be a completely different person 5 years from now. I think that's awesome.
And I'm not even meaning in career or anything like. If you love your career, I actually know I have a couple of friends who love their career. And I'm
Hmm.
so like my one girlfriend, she's a dental assistant, and
Yep.
she loves her job. She has the best teeth on the face of the planet, by the way.
That's
Like
awesome.
she just loves it.
Yeah.
But she has evolved as a human, even with hanging on to that. She's probably one of my very favorite people, to be honest. Like, she's great. My other girlfriend, she has a full time job, but she is a yoga instructor and she loves it.
Ooh,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, she loves it. And she's so good. Like, she's awesome. So, these people, they can stay in one area and not make movement if they choose not to because they love it, but they're still able to grow and expand in other aspects of their life.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying that that everybody needs to change their career and change where they live or anything like that. Just
No,
take take the bad and replace it with good is all that I'm trying to get
exactly.
at. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll know too. You'll know what feels good and what doesn't. So if you feel so fulfilled and so happy to wake up every day to go to your job, that's probably not an area you need to change. But if you have friendships or, you have other things in your life that are creating a resistant feeling or a closed off feeling of intuition showing you that that's not where you're supposed to be, or you don't enjoy spending time there, you need to follow that as an indicator. And, as you grow and evolve, you'll learn to replace those things with better things in the future.
100%. Okay, I have another question for you. Okay,
Awesome.
so since we're on this topic, so in your life, what is something you had a hard time letting go of despite knowing it wasn't adding real value to your life?
Okay, so the most obvious thing I can think of for that would have been my business, I would say, because it was something that I didn't mentally want to let go of because it was, I built it from the ground up. So obviously, when you invest that much time, energy, and money into something, it doesn't make logical sense to just let it go. But that's something that I really recognized that was not aligned with me, and I had to. I felt it within. It was like when we talk about intuition, it's that knowing when you know something and you keep trying to rationalize it. You keep trying to be like, oh, well, for me, it was I worked really hard to build this from the ground up. It's already at 1 million in sales. I don't really have to be involved in the day to day operation. I should just keep it going. Sugar's not that bad in moderation. I could, I made up all of these things, but I still felt that they weren't enough for me to want to keep going. So I still did know internally, even though I didn't want to mentally make that connection because it was very hard to come to terms with that. But yeah, that would definitely be an example of something that I knew that I had to let go of that was excruciatingly hard to do, especially because I did it and I didn't. Obviously, I know what I love to do. I love to write and do photography and different things, but I mean, I really did let it go at a time where I didn't have anything necessarily that I knew that I wanted to. It wasn't like I was making a jump, you know what I mean? I was just closing that chapter and opening myself up to whatever the universe else had in store for me because I just knew so strongly that that was not it for me.
It's so funny because everything that you played in your mind, aside from the sugar part, because I didn't
Yeah.
sell sugar, I sold flowers,
Right.
but
Yeah.
everything that you played out in your mind, I literally played out. I actually hired somebody to manage the shop for me.
Mhm.
And then I'm
Mhm.
like, Kate, I'm going to hire her. She can manage it. We were so busy. She never got trained on being the manager. I
Mhm.
still did everything. I still booked everything. And it took, well, April, May. Actually, it didn't take long. It actually only took me 2 months to be like, okay, I'm out. I can't do this because my health matters more to me than anything. But
Mhm.
it's funny because I opened up like I have a studio in the house that we talked about earlier, so I can still do weddings and stuff out of. But I left, it was a crapshoot. 100%.
Mhm.
Like and to be fair, it's still a little bit of a crapshoot. I'm open for the universe to bring me whatever it wants to bring me at this point because at some point I don't want to be doing weddings. We talked about this earlier. I don't want to be doing anything in the floral industry actually. Um, Within the next little bit. That being said, it's income and I still do
Mhm.
like doing that. So for now, that supports me. But I'm working towards something bigger. So
Yeah,
it's
and
so crazy. Yeah.
it's a lot of times it's hard for people to let go of something when they don't have something else lined up because we don't like to sit in that space, that nothingness. We don't like to reside there. So it feels really uncomfortable for us. And so that's why a lot of times people will jump from, one relationship to another, as opposed to just being like, you know what, this is just not working for me, and just letting yourself be, and not just going to the next thing. And it is a lot harder to go from your career to an open space of nothing, but oftentimes that's where the best opportunities will come to you, because you're creating space for those opportunities. Now you have time to explore different hobbies, to explore different interests, and find out what it is you want to do next, as opposed to if I just went from my bakery business to, owning a health food store because now I'm all into health and wellness. It's like I didn't give myself the time or the space to explore what else I wanted to do. And that could lead me to, it would have led me to being like, I also don't want to be running a store business or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's really interesting as humans, when you look at our human nature, how we are so uncomfortable with open space. And that's where all the magic happens.
Yeah, I honestly, I love doing my podcast. I love doing public speaking. I love coaching because it's one on one and you can actually see change with people. The podcast isn't one on one, but like the coaching, it's one on one, and it's so
Yeah.
nice cuz I get to see the change in people. I get to help them cuz I'm a helper, right? You're a helper. You literally sold joy. I used to sell joy, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense that this is like the path that I would end up going down to do. At some point, I would love a retirement career. That would be great. I'm hoping that this is the one. But
Yeah.
it all depends. But I feel like I was in an open meadow. This is how I always explain it to people when they're like, well, what are you going to do now? I'm like, well, right now, I was in a forest when I owned the shop. And then
Hmm.
now I came to a clearing and there's no trees, and I'm not planning on planting anything until I actually want to see something bloom. So now I have 3 trees planted. I have a podcast tree, I have a coaching tree, and I have a motivational speaking tree. These are my 3 trees. There's no forest, and now I just need to watch them grow. So
I love
I
that. I
like
love
to,
that analogy. That's
yeah.
so good. It's such a good visual too. And I think that that's such good advice to people listening, like to open the space, go into a little bit of nothingness and start planting different seeds based on what you love to do and see what happens. That's amazing.
Yeah, because then this way I don't have to chop any trees down right now, right? It's
Yeah.
just a huge clearing, and because I'll tell you, at the end of owning the shop, it was a forest. Like I didn't think I was going to be able to actually get out of it. I didn't see a light at the end of like the hike. I always
Hmm.
everything's an analogy for hiking for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, or at the end of the run or whatever it is. So I just feel like people need to be in the clearing just for a little while. I'm not saying forever, however long it takes you,
Yeah.
but if you can just be in the clearing for a little bit and actually sit and reset and see what it is that you actually want out of your life, it is amazing the things that you come up with at the end of it.
It's so true. Just sitting in that silence, you'll be so surprised at what actually comes to you in those moments of silence. But when we're too busy, when we're hustling and we're grinding, we're not paying attention to that inner dialogue. We don't have space for it. And it's never going to show up unless we give it that space and that time. And it doesn't need to be like quit your job tomorrow. It's just it like I said before, take half of the amount of time you spend scrolling on your phone aimlessly and dedicate that to your open space. Plant a few seeds in that space and see what grows.
Yeah, it's because it's really great when you see like a little plant
Yeah.
come out of what you planted, right? Like you see a
Yeah.
little
I
leaf
love that.
come out, and you're like, oh, look at that! There's new
Exciting. There's
growth.
life.
That's
There's life
exciting.
here. Yeah.
Oh, oh my goodness. Well, I absolutely loved you coming on. I'm so happy. I wish I could actually meet you in person
I
because,
know. That's why I asked where you were located because I was like, oh, this would be so nice to meet up for coffee sometime.
right? That's okay.
Yeah.
But you're in Ontario,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
my whole family is in Ontario. My
Oh,
parents are here.
nice.
My sister's in Yellowknife, but I was born in Kingston. So
Oh, okay. My
everybody's
brother lives
there.
in Kingston. Cool. That's a nice
Really?
area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. So all the
Yeah.
aunties, all the uncles, all the cousins, everybody's there. So
Nice.
we're almost due time to go back and visit at
Nice.
some point.
Yeah. Well, when you're in that area, let me know.
Oh, I will 100%. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on today. I'm very excited for everybody to hear this episode. And maybe you might want to come back at some point.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love the conversation. I love your questions. They were so amazing, and I feel like they're going to be so impactful for your listeners. And I love that you're following your dream and you have this podcast. It's such an amazing way to connect and meet new people. So thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.